Hey, good night, good evening. It's late, isn't it? It's a late night. Um, there's something that I want to share with all of you, and it's late, and I'm not going to make it content cool. I'm not going to try to make it marketable. I'm not going to do that. What I do is just make it authentic. Hi, Dave. What's up, Dave? Good to see you. Hi. I'm still in Pittsburgh. I want to ask a question. And I want to ask, do you still want to be sold content? Do you want us to be sold content? What's up? What's content? What is content? We're sold ideas every single day that when we follow the fruit of the content, it doesn't necessarily open up our own worlds. It doesn't give us abundance. It doesn't even make us feel good at the end of it. But we're sold content. YouTube, social media, news stories. But you know who we don't listen to? We don't listen to the small people in our own world that actually have real stories about what's really going on in our own worlds, and can, at the sacrifice and the there are people in the world that there's a lot in my head right now, so I'm just trying to put it together. I've had a very difficult last few weeks personally with personal information in my life that unfortunately is tied into a lot of this social media content that destroys individuals' lives. For a while, you guys have seen me posting things about human trafficking, sex trafficking, organ trafficking, child trafficking. Are you tired of hearing of it? Are you going to tune out with me saying that? Are you going to tune out? Oh, she's saying that again. It hit close to home recently. It's going to get shut down. I'll make sure it gets shut down. But are you tired of being sold content? Are you tired of being sold a perspective that isn't necessarily true? What do I mean by that? All right, if you want me to crack a joke, or you want me to be funny, or whatever, you know, tune out. That's not what tonight's about. There is a war right now on people's very real minds and their very real hearts and their real spirits. It's been happening for a while now. A while. And I've been trying for a long time to raise awareness to different things that are happening in the world. Unfortunately, I've been privy to, and I have personally not consented to. And I've tried to inspire others to know that they don't have to be consented to it either. Consent is a really important word. And you know what's interesting? Everybody tuned out right now. I had a few people tune in for a minute, and then they tuned out. Why? Because this is probably the most important message that anyone could hear. Consent. Anything that you consent to, whether you realize the full scope of what it is that you're consenting to, or whether you're very quick to listen to the marketed version of what sounds really great that you consent to. Regardless or not, you consent to what the other person's intent was going to be. They don't have to be fully transparent. I'm going to explain this in a minute, but I just have to say that someone does not have to be fully transparent in order to get your consent and then own you for the full effects of what their intent, as nefarious as it can be. They don't have to tell you the full truth, but they can manipulate in a way that follows the rule of telling you just enough truth that it technically, it's like lawyers. Lawyers are magnificent at this. This is why I hate lawyers. I hate lawyers because they're liars. They're never fully transparent. They play a game to manipulate in order to say just enough truth without fully lying to get the consent of the public or to get the consent of the jurisdiction in order for something to follow through. But the full fruit and the magnitude of what the public or an individual has consented to will never fully be shown until the effects are really proven through in fruit. That is where we're at in our country. That's where we are in our individual lives. Do you ever notice how, so let's say on a microscopic level, all right? Let's say that you're really tired and someone is blowing up your phone. You got a bad feeling about it, and it's someone that you don't fully trust, but maybe for some kind of like network level, or maybe for some sort of social level, or maybe for some sort of art level, you feel the reason to have to respond to them. It's not really authentic, but you feel that you've got to go along on a certain level with what they want you to do because you want to maintain some sort of bullshit connection with them because you want something in return, or you want to stay cool in whatever they're doing, or you want to be socially accepted. So you agree to whatever they're initially seeming to say they want you to do. They want you to go out to a bar, or they want you to go out to a show, or they want you to show up at this non-profit event. So you go. You don't fully realize what you've agreed to, but you find out quickly, or sometimes not so quickly. It wasn't what you fully agreed to. Maybe you find out that the the place that you agreed to meet up with them sucks. Maybe you find out that the agreement that going to this art show got you involved in some really gnarly, weird stuff at the end of the night. And you wanted to get the hell out, but then you didn't know how to do it without seeming rude. And it left you wanting. Maybe you agreed to being involved with this nonprofit that when you really found out the root of the nonprofit, it's completely opposite of what they say they're about. And it has nothing to do with what you're about. Happens a lot. It happens on a micro level too, or a macro level too. When we allow ourselves to get involved with all kinds of different things, it can suck our energy. I've been doing a lot of research lately, and this is going to be a big info bomb, and I don't even care. I mean, like, I'm not even trying to make it cool. I'm not trying to, I don't even care. I'm just going to talk about it. There, clearly, if you haven't followed what I've been talking about for the last year and a half, there are a lot of people in this world, whether they're in the arts, you know who you are, whether you're in the nonprofit, whether you're in the supposed healthcare, sickness maintenance industry, high or low, whatever. Whether you're in the government, high or low, maybe you're the mayor, maybe you're just a councilman, maybe you're a UN diplomat, maybe you're a congressman, maybe you're a senator, and maybe you got your hands dirty in something that initially you didn't realize you were agreeing to. Turns out, in order for you to get the position that you wanted to get into, or to be in the social situation that you got into, or to be able to selfishly get involved in something that you thought was going to boost your career, you find out there's a really gnarly conversation that you have to agree to. Maybe it was a backdoor conversation. It got you involved with human trafficking. It got you involved with sex trafficking. It got you involved with drug trafficking. It got you involved with organ trafficking. And you don't know how to get out. So you go along with it. Let's talk about blockchain. I've been doing a lot of research on blockchain because a lot of my friends are getting really involved with blockchain right now. A lot of conversations about blockchain. Well, you have to understand, with every single thing that you personally allow your energy, which is your human mind, consciousness, your actions, your thoughts, that's your ultimate energy. That's your life force. And whatever you get attuned to ends up either depleting you or ends up giving you more energy. Okay? And it rejuvenates you. Okay? Whenever you're attuned to something that is highly good, the fruit of it is always going to rejuvenate you. You're never going to feel depleted, and you'll never feel taken advantage of. You'll actually get abundance from it. That's the truth. It doesn't have to be about money. It's about doing something kind. You know, something even for free. Most things that really rejuvenate you, that are really good, rejuvenate you, and they're free. But we're living in a complicated world where we deal with a lot of money, fiat money, which is clearly going by the wayside. And in the past year or so, there's been a huge shift in going into blockchain. Okay? With blockchain, we're dealing with a derivative of talking about content, social content, your information content, your energy content, your thought content, mining the mind, mining your energy for a Bitcoin. So, I've been grateful to know a few fantastic folks in the know about these things. But, sorry guys, and you know who you are, I'm not only going to listen to what you're talking about, because I know you guys are good folks, you know, and you know who you are. But I do my own research. I always have. And I want to open up a conversation that has not been talked about yet, about the connections of where this blockchain began, who was part of it, what their paths were, and if you'll understand, and I hope that you give me a moment to of grace to understand that in this world, anything that is really dark needs to always tell you a certain truth and be told by the people that are truly involved in some gnarly stuff their own truth about it, whether you really fully put it together or not. They got to do it in order to make it stick. Most people don't pay attention. But if you agree to it, whether you follow it or not, then you're part of it. The first thing that raises a red flag for me is the simple two words put together as one word called block and chain. Those two words do not sound freeing. Do they sound freeing to you? I sure hope not. I really sure hope not. Block, like a cell block. The black cube cell block, a prison block, a slavery block. Chain gang. There's no conversation for an individual to raise up or to decide to do their own thing in a chain. You're in a chain. Everyone's in a chain. We're all equal within a chain, aren't we? Blockchain. We have blockchain. Where did blockchain come from? Well, I've been trying to archive as much as I possibly can before it gets deleted and reframed in the future. So I've tried to archive as much as I possibly can. In 2014, Brock Pierce, I want you to make note of that name. It's very important. Brock Pierce in 2014 started coming out publicly saying that he was part of the original Bitcoin Foundation as a board member. Now, I'm going to assume that most of you that are friends with me on Facebook, and those that you that don't know me on YouTube, all my 3 subscribers, hello guys, maybe you do know, maybe the people on YouTube that might randomly fall into this and hear this might know who I'm talking about, but I can pretty much guarantee that my friends on Facebook, unless you're part of the Hollywood crew that I knew, and maybe you're around in the 90s, that name might ring a bell. Brock Pierce started off in the 90s as a Disney childhood actor. He was part of the Mighty Ducks. He also did a film with Sinbad in, I think, 1997 or so. Interestingly enough, a 40-year-old tech guru who already had a seedy backstory, his name was Mark Collins Rector. Okay, he was already 40 in 1998, 1999, when he pulled in Brock Pierce. Mark Collins Rector was considered a digital pioneer. Okay? Mark Collins Rector, as an older man, had gotten a boyfriend when he was only in high school, and his name was Chad Shackley. Chad Shackley was from Michigan. Mark Collins Rector, in the 90s, was living in Michigan working on, let me see if I can find it. I wrote all this down. He had started this company in Michigan called Concentric Research. Okay? And Chad lived with Rector Collins since dropping out of a Michigan high school. And then Brock Pierce, they moved to Los Angeles, and then Brock Pierce, at 17 years old, randomly just decided to join their supposed company. Well, their supposed company was based out of a very large mansion that had hot tubs, swimming pools, that catered to very elite CIA Hollywood moguls, that had very young boys through the Disney network, through Lionsgate, through Den, which was their own production company that was the precursor to YouTube. They did a lot of late night parties with young boys. There's a movie, if you're interested in learning more about this. There was a young boy, his name was Michael Egan, who is the center, but not the only one, that spoke and as part of this documentary. It's called An Open Secret. Okay? He documents about the horrific things that happened to these young boys. Some of them were as young as 11. They were drugged, and they were systematically passed around to different Disney moguls. Yeah. Different politicians, different investors in Den. This connects to the beginning of the internet, because Mark Collins Proctor, Chad Shackley, and Brock Pierce were also three of the main helpers in creating what has become the internet. And Den, their experiment with Den, the purpose with Den, if you don't know about Den was the precursor to YouTube. Den, and this is in Mark Collins Proctor's verbatim words. Den's purpose, D-E-N, was going to pioneer. The purpose was pioneering an idea to distribute video entertainment. Entertainment. I wonder what these guys think are entertainment. What's entertainment to these fuckers? I'm gonna swear tonight, because you know what? I can't even handle it anymore. I'm over it. I'm over it. Well, they're not going to do their entertainment through theaters and television anymore. We're going to do it through the internet. That was their whole game. And they were given tens of millions of dollars before they even did their first episode of Den. Now, let's think about everyday people like you and me. And for some of you that know me, you know I know a lot of people. You think I can call someone up and get tens of millions of dollars doing what I do in the backyard? And what I do in the backyard is pretty cool. But you know what? They're not going to give me tens of millions of dollars for that. There's got to be something going on underneath that benefits them. What was going on underneath? The parties. What do you think all these folks are talking about in Hollywood? It's not just about, I gotta charge my phone. I'm just walk with me for a minute. It's not just about the casting couch in Hollywood for adults and for women. As much as that sucks, and I have been trying so hard to protect the friends that I've had in the modeling industry and in the acting industry, in the music industry, and all that on a private level for years, in trying to create alternative platforms for them to be able to find out their real voice and not having to become someone like Lady Gaga and not have to sell out like Lindsay Lohan and not have to be a Victoria's Secret model, which is basically a high-end escort. It gets worse. And if all of us can really understand what it is that's really going on, we can fix something. We can really fix it. Den is the beginning of all of it. Sorry, I'm leaning in. I'm just trying to get to my phone charger. You know what? Maybe I'll just move over here. We're going to move over to the window. Okay. So, I got my notebook. Moving over to the window. And we're going to talk about something deeper than just sexual harassment. It all starts with the beginning of the internet and why, in fact, the internet was given as much money as it was given, and who the real investors were, and the connections with these original investors in the internet, in Den, the predecessor of YouTube, why there is a dark web, why there has been so much depravity in trying to slowly create pedophilia to become normative. And then you've got Brock Pierce coming out and talking about how he has been a founder and the people that funded the original internet and everything that they got busted for back in 2000 are the same people that are now behind blockchain. I'm not making this stuff up, dude. I just do my research because I care. You have no idea how much people like myself and amazing friends, we sacrifice a lot to be able to figure this out. And you know, yeah, we know we're ostracized by a lot of different people that are playing the game. But you know what? I really want a better life for so many people. This is what I do. So here we go. And you can research it for yourself. It's all right now, literally tonight. It's all there on YouTube. If you don't believe me, check it out. Go and YouTube blockchain and Brock Pierce. And then cross-reference on Google search Brock Pierce and Mark Collins Rector with pedophilia. David Geffen is involved with it. I'm looking down because these are where my notes are. So, all right, I usually like to just talk with you, but there's just too much information for me not to look down at my notes. So I'm going to read a little bit about what I've written down. Okay, so there is a Den Google connection. Some of you guys in Pittsburgh are not going to like me for this one because I know you're getting paid by Google. Sorry. It is what it is. So there is a Den Google connection. Now, Collins Rector patented a video advertising method that Google has now used for its own advertising efforts. He patented it in 1999. Now, there's David Geffen, who was one of the main investors in Den originally, who is a major freak. He gets freaky-deaky. Geffen, who's highly involved with Disney, gave a ton of money to Den back in the day. And guess what Geffen created with his money? Disney DreamWorks. Interesting. Research that. Find those little connections. Now, when Mark Collins Rector got busted originally for abusing small children, and we're talking about 13-year-old boys that were brought in from all over the country, what they would do, and you'll see it in Open Secret, what they would do, and this is like the modeling world, you know, predators, what they do is they, on the guise of saying, well, we're looking for the next big star. And of course, all these kids from small towns are like, oh, I want to get my head shot. I can't wait to get discovered by a big producer in LA, and all my dreams are going to happen. I'm going to be like Brad Pitt. I'll be like Johnny Depp. They feed off that. And if you watch an Open Secret, all three of them, Chad Shackley, Mark Collins Proctor, and Brock Pierce, only being 16 years old, 17 years old, creepy little dude. They were going through the pictures of all these young boys thinking of who they'd want to screw. And then they'd call those boys in for an audition. That's what they would do. This is how it works. Wake up. Wake up, parents. I'm not the enemy here. Wake the fuck up and protect your fucking kids. These are predators. So, these kids get flown in for free to the big old mansion that they had in West Hollywood with tons of drugs to roofie these kids at the parties. And they'd flatter them. They'd give them a little audition. And if they were cute, they'd tell them to take off their shirt. See what they kind of looked like. And if they liked them, they'd say, oh, you're perfect. You're perfect for the role. You're perfect for the role. Bring them in. No, save your money. Stay with us. We've got plenty of space in the mansion. We'll save money. Your parents, we'll make sure your parents know that you're safe with us. You're safe with us. Next thing you know, they're making these videos. It's called Chad's World. Well, you can look up the whole Den supposed television show of what Chad's World was about. Well, guess what? Chad's World is a perfect verbatim reality story of what Chad Shackley went through in order to be with Mark Collins Rector. It's all about a young 15-year-old boy who all of a sudden kind of questions his sexuality based on Mark Collins Rector telling him that maybe he might be gay because Mark Collins wanted something from him. And so it not only shows everyone what Chad Shackley actually went through, they make money off it, they also program all these other young kids to think, maybe I'm going through that too. To pre-program them for other predators that are going on that are 40 years old that want a 15-year-old kid. This is the beginning of the internet, guys. This was the story. This was Den. Den was the predecessor to YouTube. This was the intent. These were the kind of people, and the people behind these people were the money that created this kind of reality. And now they're behind blockchain. You think you're going to be freer for it? You kidding me? No. Brock Pierce and all of them were highly involved in drug trafficking. They had drugs constantly around the mansion. Constantly. Bryan Singer, who was a very well-known director for the X-Men series, was involved with them. And he himself independently was indicted for pedophilia. You can look it up. as of now, I'm doing my best to archive all this information so it doesn't get wiped from the web. Now, through Brock Pierce's own voice, and I'm going to, after I'm done with this live feed, what I'm going to do is post in the comments below the different videos that you can listen to coming from the horse's mouth, what they're saying. And I'm going to ask you to not just listen to it blindly. I'm going to ask you to listen to it under the critical thinking mentality of understanding that this is someone who is based off of the criminal content that has been going on in the dark web since the intent, since the beginning. And then they're going to try to sell you on telling you it's not the bad thing. It's gold. Oh, okay, so we're going to listen to the original people that created the internet, or the sounding voices and the pretty boys in the front of the internet whose backers have systematically pushed the degradation of everybody and pedophilia and exploitation of all kinds of folks. And now they're going to be the same sounding voices for Bitcoin and for the Bitcoin Foundation, and they're board members of it. They're board members of the blockchain. And then they tell you in their own mind, in their own speeches, that it doesn't really matter if you go with Bitcoin or you go with Ethereum or you go with them. The blockchain is the blockchain. So they're the underground below all of it. There's a reason why Bitcoin and the dark web has used Bitcoin and all that for the longest time. Now we know why. Now we know why. I'm just looking through my notes to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. It's a lot of stuff, you guys. And I'm not fully done with my research. But tonight I just felt like I really needed to share this. Because there's so much talk about Bitcoin and all these different things. So here we go. Okay, so let's talk about, this is interesting. So after Den imploded, I believe it was 2000 or 2001 when the rape allegations started coming up, there was a revamped, this is very interesting, there was a revamped exec team to try to save Den, which became YouTube. Capitol Records president, Capitol Records, noted. Are we duly noting these things? Yes, thank you, appreciate it. Gary Gersh signed on to fix the problem. Former Microsoft exec Gary Carpenter signed on to fix the problem. They wanted Den to be larger and leaner. They wanted TV-style programs, news, chat, music, and such to be targeted towards the college kids. But we always know they like them like younger. They always say college, but there's a reason why Abercrombie and Fitch wanted 12-year-olds to be wearing thongs. Convergence of the new technology and entertainment would become YouTube. Interesting. Now, I'm going to pause for a minute because I have got a lot of wonderful friends that are YouTubers. And you guys have a ton of subscribers. And you are the truth movement and you're doing amazing things. And you can't understand why, when you're trying to do really great content, trying to expose the dark of these things, that you're the ones that get shut down. And yet you've got really jacked up content on YouTube, like really sick stuff that YouTube never flags, never has a problem with. And on top of it, there's like 5 million hits for some really jacked up stuff. Why? Because these are the people behind it. Here we go. Okay, so anyway. Apparently, Collins Rector saw the potential of this booming technology, Den and YouTube, earlier than most. And he lined up major investors and grabbed key advertisers, and his company was the first entertainment site to file for an initial public stock offering, positioning execs for all kinds of internet riches that the Hollywood moguls have come to envy. It's true. Hollywood is losing money big time. People aren't going to the theaters like they used to, but they go on the internet all the time for whatever they want. Now, Collins Rector was the main creative force for Den. That's important that's noted because he was 40 years old at the time. And the creative content was all about pedophilia. 100%. 100%. It wasn't even hidden. Like, not hidden at all. And the parties that he had for the investors that gave him money for Den had pedophilic parties with 13-year-old boys. That's how he made his money. Disney was involved. Deal with it. Okay. And he had picked up his boyfriend, Chad Shackley, when Chad was only 15 years old. And Chad moved into the Hollywood mansion with him. And then they picked up Brock Pierce when he was 17 years old to be the third partner. Really? A 17-year-old kid that just played Mighty Ducks is going to be your partner in a big-time producing thing? Okay. Okay. They focused on Generation Y at the time, and they specifically targeted the potential for gay teens to try to make sure that they felt encompassed in this conversation. This is what the grooming process is. You make you question your sexuality, and then you feel like a victim, and then the predators come on top. Literally. Sometimes they roofie you if you feel uncomfortable. It sucks. That's true. This is what these dudes did. Well, when they got busted for what they were doing, they moved to Spain, and they hid out for a long time. And that's when, okay, so let's move forward to the whole blockchain, the gaming thing of how this all connects. So when they got busted, I gotta have a glass of wine for this and a cigarette because this is a lot of stuff. And it's dark, and it's frustrating. There's no doubt about it. So this is how I deal. This is how I deal with this stuff. So apparently they moved to Spain, and they were trying to lay low because apparently not only were they trying to get busted for what they were doing, David Geffen wasn't really happy with them either. So apparently they were worried that David Geffen was going to try to take them out. Because if they got busted, David Geffen was going to get busted, and David Geffen can't have that. So, anywho, they go to Spain, they hide out, they lay low, and apparently Brock Pierce started gaming a lot with Worlds of Warcraft. And, you know, I'm not much of a gamer. I don't deal with that stuff. But apparently there's stuff that you can do with like mining. Like apparently early in the 2000s you could learn how to mine fake virtual money off these gaming games. And, you know, any of you that remember all that jazz and you know more about it than I do, or you've experienced it, you know, let me know what's up, because I totally was not privy to this. I was like making weird sets and like working in theater and doing all kinds of other stuff back then. Like I wasn't paying attention to any of that stuff. So I'm just listening to what in his interviews he's talked about with this. So he's talking about how he would get really involved with gaming and mining for virtual money. At the time, it was just kind of like play money, kind of like Monopoly money. But then they started getting kind of serious about it. So they went to China, and they had like these crazy dens of like all these kids getting paid like maybe $4 a day to work day and night to mine for Worlds of Warcraft and all this other weird stuff. And then they start realizing maybe we can make this into the next reality of digital currency. Okay? When you understand people, the way that they think, those kind of folks, you're going to have those folks be the head of the next digital movement for currency. There is so much corruption with Bitcoin. You can lose your Bitcoin in a heartbeat. I mean, first of all, you can forget your password. That sucks. I mean, that's like number one. But number two, it gets hijacked all the time. All the time. Number three, I mean, I'm just going to jump to the game. I mean, I'm just going to jump to where it's at right now. You got some dude like Ty Lopez, who's from Beverly, like this random dude, Beverly Hills, like fake BS motivational speaker of how you're going to make a whole bunch of money. He's behind this and like really promoting Brock Pierce. These people are frauds. They're frauds. You're going to let people like Ty Lopez and freaking Brock Pierce and all these folks be the ones that are going to be the ones to create the next generation of what currency is, when we had enough problems with JP Morgan for the last 120 years? Are you kidding me? So, I'm going to try to wrap this up a little bit because I don't want to go too long. But I've thrown enough names out there. If you're interested, which I hope you are, I really hope that you want to learn some of these things before it becomes what you feel non-consensual. Let's talk about the word consent. I talked a little bit about it in the beginning of the talk, but I'd like to talk about it again, because I've been having some conversations with some friends about the importance of the concept of consent, whether it is subconscious or whether it is extremely conscious. Nothing bad, nothing evil, nothing that is against what could be good for us is allowed to just run wild in this world. I'm going to say that again. Nothing that is evil, that can destroy us, that can run rampant and create chaos and destruction in our own lives or in this world, is allowed to freely run rampant without our consent. Whether we realize it's conscious or whether we believe it to be subconscious, or we're told a manipulative, marketed version of what they're selling us and we agree to it or not. We have to really be vigilant about what we personally agree to in our own personal lives, what we tolerate, what we stand for, what we don't stand for, and really be able to look at things truly for what they are, not for what they're being sold as, not what the pretty little picture sugar cube, pretty little package it is. I know I'm sounding a little tough at the moment, but we gotta wake up. Marketing has won since the 1930s, and we've lost as humanity since then. And there's still fighters out there in the world that believe that we can change right now, just through the concept of consent. All you need to say is, I'm not a part of it. I don't want to be a part of it. I don't need to be a part of it. I'm not a part of it. I don't want this in my world, and I'm not going to feed into it. That's simple. If all of us did that, it would all be done. But there's too many people that believe lies. And people believe lies for many, many different reasons. Maybe you feel fear. For instance, let's get real here. 120 years ago, people didn't realize the power of money that it has now. Now, people can't even imagine the idea of believing on anything above and beyond money. Read the Anatolian, and then we'll talk. The Anatolian says everything. You had people before the Industrial Revolution that believed in a world beyond money. They believed in ideals, wherever you came from. The Middle Ages, they didn't deal with fiat money. They deal with ideas. There were some assholes that believed in gold, and there were other people that believed in relationships with each other. And now, the dollar's falling apart. And we're at a precipice where we can choose one of two things. Where we can choose to start believing in each other, really valuing each other as humans, and for what we can truly give to each other, and just find a really good back and forth. I've been living that personally for a while now, and it's a really beautiful thing. It's a really beautiful thing. Or we're going to fall into the fear of, I don't want to be left behind, and I'm going to get into this blockchain because I want to make a whole bunch of money. I want to make sure, but you're not asking yourself what exactly it is and what it is that you're really feeding into. And once you do enough research and you find out the people behind it, you find out the entities behind it, you find out the economies behind it, which if Brock Pierce and all those jagoffs are behind it, it's all about the child, the sex, the drug, the human trafficking. It's all there. You want to keep feeding that shit? If you do, well, you know what? Dude, you're gone. You're lost. Like, whatever. But if you have kids and you really believe that the world can be better, which I always do, and you have no idea. I don't come from an ideal world. I come from the other side. I recently found out just how close I was to it. Please. Please don't let that be the future for everybody. We're humans. And they're beautiful. Everyone has come into this world